Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. Does the sound look like it's working? Yes, it looks like it's working. Okay, hi everyone, welcome. Glad to have you here today. We are doing our coaching versus mentoring webinar. So I hope you're in the right place and expecting that. Today we're having to pull this off with two of us, missing a technical person. So just forewarning that we're going to get to all the technical stuff as well as be talking to you. So I see there's a couple people that we can admit already into the waiting room, out of the waiting room, into the webinar. So yeah, just a little bit of patience with us as we get up and running. But very excited to get into things today with you. Lots to work through, and we've only got an hour to get through it. So before we get started with our topic, I wanted to just talk through some of the rules of engagement. So yeah, I'll just bring these up. Basically, it's just for anyone who's new to Zoom. I don't think there's many people out there new to Zoom anymore. I think most of us are starting to get very comfortable using it at the moment, but just in case you're not sure about how Zoom is working and things like that, a couple of things that you might find helpful is if you go to the top of the screen on the right hand side, I believe there's a different view settings, and you can choose like a gallery view, or you can choose to have one large screen. Play around with what works for you. But if you're worried about you can't see things, maybe just check out the view section. And then at the bottom toolbar, you'll also find a chat button. So you'll find that we have actually muted you guys, just background noise. We want to keep the sound good quality coming through, but we would like to be able to still interact. So if you've got questions, the chat box at the bottom is your place to get in touch with us. I will be keeping an eye on that box as we go through the presentation that we've got. We'll be throwing some questions out to you as an audience as well, so you can also send and put your comments in the chat box for us there. That would be great. So you can find that at the bottom of the screen. And just ask also if you could keep your audio muted for us. That would be awesome. And then also just to let you know, yeah, there will be times when we do throw questions out, but we will also allow for time at the end of the webinar where we're going to have some time where you can just put any questions that you feel you still want to understand something, we haven't answered something that you came to this session with that you wanted to find out. We'll address all of those at the end. So put your question in the box anyway, because I always find it's helpful that I just need to get the question out of my head. Otherwise, I forget it by the time we get to the end. And if it's something that we haven't addressed yet, I will keep it for the end of the session. All right. And then the last thing is we are recording this. So for anyone who has any struggles with the audio, with the video, and they keep losing connection or whatever, we will be sending you a recording of the video at the end of the in the next few hours after this session. So you will be getting that anyway, and we're happy if you guys want to share that around. We will make it published so that it's accessible on our website and things as well. All right, so that's my rules of engagement done. Quirvis, I haven't really introduced you.
You don't need to. That's fine.
So yeah, so Quirvis and I are actually going to run this webinar together as kind of an interview style, we thought. Do you want to make a comment about that?
Well, if I can just add something to the rules of engagement, and that is that I've lost my phone somewhere. So don't get into ideas, but my phone might ring, and then I might have to get up to find it, all right? But Johnny, don't phone me, okay? I can see see you've got your phone with you, right? I'm very excited to be with you. No, don't do that. I'm very excited to be with you, and Noah, I see you are there as well. I assume all the way from the States. I don't even know what time it is. It's early morning or late. What time would it be? It would be in the evening, yeah? I don't know. Morning. Okay, cool. Well, welcome. I hope you have a good morning. So I think as introduction, I want to make this thing very clear that we say this is mentoring versus coaching. But from the word go, I want you guys to know that this is not, we're not going to throw mentoring and coaching in a boxing ring, all right, and see, who's going to come out at top, all right, that there's going to be some sort of a fight. I think it is very important for us to look at mentoring and coaching and actually realize that it does have two different philosophies, two different takes on it. And I think to get the depth out of mentoring and coaching is to really look at what is the difference, how do we define the two, and then ultimately, what do I need? Do I need coaching in my life? Do I need mentoring in my life? What does my business need? So this is not one against the other. It is to get the depth of both. I think you really need to look at both as individual components. And I think the reason, Tanya, why I'm so excited about this is we have started to talk about mentoring and coaching as the same thing. So there are phenomenal organizations like, I think in South Africa, Comensa, stands for Coaching and Mentoring South Africa. I mean, so people see coaching and mentoring, and they talk about coaching and mentoring, and they see it as the same thing. And I think they lose the depth of what coaching and mentoring can be, if you see it as one thing. So I think that is the heart, that is what this whole process is about.
Well, the reason why we thought we'd play, well, we do this with the two of us is, yeah, is just that I think you have so much depth of knowledge when it comes to mentoring. Yeah. And a lot of your research was all to do with mentoring sides of things. And I felt like if you're going to run the show, you're going to just talk about mentoring. And I've recently been getting into coaching, doing strengths coaching, training to do some purpose coaching. So I feel like I want to stand up a little bit for coaching. Not that it's a fight. I just feel like we need to explore this evenly and not make it
we
biased.
Can get the boxing gloves out if you want to.
That could be interesting.
And I think maybe also just audience-wise, I recognize a few faces, and I know some of these people are mentors because I know I've been mentoring with them. And then there's, I just spoke about Noah. He's the head of Integer, and they are an amazing coaching company. So if you guys are thinking coaching after this, go to Integer and see what they are doing. I think you will really be excited as to what they offer as well. So yes, this is not about coaching versus mentoring. However, I am biased, I am subjective, and I think it is cool to have a coach sitting next to me while we talk about this. Cool. So let's start.
Yeah, where do we start?
You know what? I think a great place to start when we talk about coaching and mentoring is actually to start at the very origin. Where do we even get these words from? And I think it really sets us up nicely to talk about coaching and mentoring going forward. Now, with coaching, there's so different angles and different views, but coaching is a very new concept. It's crazy. We think that this will be with us for ages, but it seems like coaching is a very new concept. And in 1830, it seems like this was the first time that the word coach was actually used. So 1830, we zoom in, we go in a time machine back to 1830 to Oxford University, and there's a student and he's really struggling with his exam. And he takes a tutor is helping him to get through his exam, and he calls the tutor a coach. Now, just pause there for a second, because remember, the understanding of a coach was like a wagon or a bus or something, But this tutor, the student, uses the word coach as slang to create a picture of someone that's going to take him on a coach, on a bus, through the exam. And so from the word go, the understanding of coach is, hey, I'm getting on this bus, I want to get there, and so you will be the one helping me to get there. So coaching always kind of have this transportation connection. Like a coach is something that's going to get me from point A to point B, it's going to transport me there, and that is how the word coach actually started. The official, like, let's do this now as a kind of a business, we can trace back to only like 1980, where a finance guy said, hey, when we look at finance, it shouldn't just be numbers. There's so much more around finance. We really need to look at finance holistically, and I want to coach people how to really engage with their finances, in a holistic way. So that is kind of the background for where the term coaching originated. The term mentoring, that's ancient. So mentoring, we can trace back to 800 BC. So 800 BC, there's this guy with the name Homer, and he writes a story. And the story is about a king, Odysseus. And King Odysseus, he needs to go and fight in a war, the Trojan Wars, and he leaves his son behind. And Odysseus says, hey, I need someone to take care of my son. And he appoints a guy, and what he asked this guy to do is to be an advisor, it was advisor, a teacher, and a friend to his son. And that person's name is mentor. And that's where the word mentor comes from. So it's King Odysseus that said, hey, I want to appoint someone to take care of my son. And that guy's name was Mentor. Now, like everything, it didn't kind of, for 800 BC up until now, it was always about mentoring. Obviously, it took different shapes how people understood it. But it seems like as we work through literature over the years, that mentoring has always been this idea of someone that's kind of put in place or appointed even to take care of someone else in a kind of friendship, tutoring, teaching kind of way. And that's where mentor comes from. But in 2004, President George Bush said, hey, this mentoring thing sounds so cool. And he takes 450 million US dollars and he says, let's develop mentoring. And that was 2003, 2004. By 2009, there were already 4,500 mentoring organizations registered in the States. Shows you what a little bit of money can do for the cause. And so what we find now is we sit with these two things that, you know, they date back, coaching slightly younger, or a lot younger than mentoring, and all of them originated with a philosophy. And I think that is the most important thing. The philosophy that we find within the coaching kind of realm was the coachee, the person, the student wanted to get to another place. So it was my desire to achieve something and I need a vehicle to take me there. Where with the mentoring part, super interesting if you go back to the original story, the mentee didn't even have a say. He was just the son of a king, and the king appointed a mentor, and the mentor steps into the role and say, hey, I am going to be your mentor. And even if the mentee said, no, but I don't want you to be my mentor, then the mentor would have said, but I am. But I don't like you. Well, I don't care because I'm your mentor. And so we see from the word go, we see definitely two different approaches to the whole process of mentoring and coaching. Sorry, I'm just admitting more people as they join us. Like Tammy said, our technical person is in lockdown, not in prison, but still locked down. Okay. Yeah, so Tammy, so I think that's such a cool way to already set the scene for the difference between coaching and mentoring, and that they have different angles, you know, in the approach.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know that, especially not the coaching part. So that was interesting. But what I want to go to now is to actually say, well, let's bring it down to practice, to definition. Let's bring the definitions in play, because I think that is what's going to also help people to understand the difference. So
yeah,
if you pick it up.
Okay, let me just quickly get this going. Okay.
Got it.
All
right. So, like he said, and I think like we're all aware, coaching and mentoring has definitely become something much more popular in the last few decades. And because of that, there's a lot of interest in it. Everyone is kind of exploring it. It makes definitions very difficult, because I think everyone's got their own take on it, because they're learning something new about it and they want to include that. And so you will find a lot of definitions out there. And I think all of them have value. I've just tried to stick with ones that we find really helpful and valuable in terms of understanding each one of them. So these are just two definitions. If you've got another definition, I'm sure there's something similar and something slightly more to it, but these ones are to us like the kind of the essence for us of what each of them. So the coaching one comes from Cummings and Worley, 2009. Coaching is a development process whereby an individual meets on a regular basis with a coach to clarify goals, deal with potential stumbling blocks, and improve their performance. And then if we bring the mentoring side up, mentoring is I just can't read this one for a second. It's a relationship between, I should know this one off by heart anyway. Mentoring is a relationship between a more experienced person and an unrelated, less experienced protege, in which the mentor provides guidance, instruction, and encouragement aimed at developing the competence and character of the protege. And that's by Jean Rhodes et al. In her 2006, but I think it's actually older than that. If you don't know about Jean Rhodes, she's big in mentoring, and definitely one to follow all her research that she does into mentoring. So those are the. Can you leave them up?
Yeah. Oh, so you want me to bring them back? Okay.
Yeah. Takes a bit of time to look at it and assimilate it. But I have a question for you guys. So, like we said, we are very much more about keeping everyone interactive. Makes you think a bit more rather than just become an observer and maybe get bored. I don't know. But anyway, the question for you guys is, what differences do you see looking at the definitions? Are there clear differences that stand out in terms of this is what coaching is about and this is what mentoring is about? And that's the difference between the two.
So looking at the two definitions and kind of comparing.
Yeah, comparing the definitions. Okay. What differences stand out to you between the two of them? Okay. So you can just put.
So now you need to go to your chat box.
To the chat box.
And tell us. This is your homework.
And I will just share a few people's thoughts. Otherwise, I'll just share my own thoughts if no one has got anything. Okay, so Johnny, when I look at the area of competence, it could totally overlap with coaching. Yeah, so more of a similarity. Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. They're both focusing on competence in some way, definitely.
Okay, so their competence would then be the competence on this side, and then
I think the performance,
performance on the other side. Yeah. Differences?
What strikes me is coaching. Cool. So from Noah, what strikes me is that coaching is focused more on a process and mentoring is focused on relationship. Yeah, 100%. That is the biggest. If you didn't notice that, then I think you're missing the big difference between the two of them. Coaching is definitely, I mean, there's no word of relationship in there, whereas mentoring, the very first word is it's a relationship, and that's the big focus of it. Mentor needs to be more experienced, at least according to the definition. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about the coach in this one, actually. Cool. Coaching seems more professional relationship. Mentoring is about growing character. So once again, it's almost that relationship. There is kind of a relationship in coaching, but it's not the personal relationship that mentoring would have. And because of the personal aspect to mentoring, the character comes into play a lot more. Whereas coaching, you're just focused on the skills transfer side of things. Was there anything else that you noticed?
I wasn't really focusing, to be quite honest.
Well, I think one thing that stood out for me.
Can I
answer? Sorry.
So, no. I like on the coaching side, there's goals, clarified goals that I kind of see where it feels like on the mentoring side more a vagueness of instruction and encouragement aimed at developing, where coaching seems more specific for me when I kind of compare the two definitions.
Yeah, I like that. I was also going to talk about goals. I don't see anything about goals in the mentoring definition. I see some other people are saying, what I gather is the mentoring relationship, the client has no cooperation or input, whereas in the coaching relationship, they're maybe more focused on relationship, but from an objective or neutral angle.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. I think we'll explore that a bit more as we go on. So that's a cool thought.
Yeah.
Critical thinking is more focused within coaching. Okay, and then Cornet added, if you don't get results in coaching, you're under the pressure, or you're under pressure, sorry. And with mentoring, there is little or no objective. It might feel in comparison, maybe. I think, there's always objectives. Which brings me to our next point.
Yes, what's your next point?
The big similarity, the big thing about what do these do, you can stop share if you want to, is that both of these are really aimed at change, bringing change in a person's life. And so I wanted to hand over to you just to give us a short little bit about change and how do we go about causing change, or what is needed for change, because that's really what what we're about. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sheesh, where do I even start? You said it's short, but that's a whole series on its own. But yeah, I fully agree that coaching and mentoring, the end result, I think, maybe my integer coaching friends can help there, but I think that the ultimate change, the ultimate goal is to see change in a person's life. So two different approaches maybe, but with the same goal, and that is that there's change and that change will be sustainable. It's not the pie in the sky thing of New Year's resolution. Oh, I so badly want to change my life, and I'm trying things, and then nothing happens. Um, and so for us, the journey of change has really been a one to help people to see that things look different in their lives continuously over time. And maybe the best way to describe this is, I was once interviewed by a DJ in a radio booth. What do you call it? Not a booth, studio. And so the DJ asked me, he said, Quibus, what makes you tick? What makes you get up in the morning? And I said, change. That's the thing that's really getting me to be very excited in life. And then he said, okay, so what is your definition of change? And he really got me in that second. I was like, oh my word, I actually never thought about the definition for the word change. And now I'm on live radio, so it's kind of, I'm kind of stuck there, and I didn't have my phone with me, so I can't even Google it to quickly see, like what is it. And Shane, the DJ, was a super nice guy, and he was like, okay, he's gonna go to a song, he's gonna Quibus will tell us about what changes after this break. And oh my word, I'm sitting there. And I just made up something, but I really fell in love with my own definition, so much so that I don't even think that I've ever actually Googled what the real definition for change is. But when we came back and I kind of got myself together again, I said to him that change to me is that moment when you discover something and you can never go back to the old way of doing or thinking. Never. I mean, it's that moment of discovery, that moment of enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, and you go like, oh my word, now I can never go back to the old way of thinking or doing something. And to me, that's real change. And so as we have been exploring change over the years, to see like what's happening in the brain, how does the brain function and the neurology around the brain, the kind of model that we have come up with. I think I often steal stuff from other people, so I can't even remember if this is originally ours or not, but there's a chance that it is I just said that change, really there's three things. That to see real change, you need to create awareness in a person. I mean, if I don't know that anything needs to change in my life, then, if there's no awareness, then I won't change. Plus, I need the actual tools to change. And then there's another component, and that's the accountability thing. Because once again, when we think about change and we think about how our minds work and our neural pathways and how they're wired, is you're actually wired not to change. Your brain wants to keep you a sane person. And if you change continuously, then you'll be crazy. Just think about it. If you today, you decide that you want to be a fisherman, and you go through the change of becoming a fisherman, and then tomorrow it's ballerina. Now it's ballerina. I want to start dancing, and now you dance with your tutu around in the street. And now the next thing is, there's actually an illness that we can name, and we can give you medicine. It can't be treated, but we can give you medicine for it, just to control it. So your brain is designed not to change. It's designed to keep you, even if you are detrimental to yourself. And so as mentors, as coaches, we say, hey, we want to help a person towards change. So we're actually going to engage in something that is such a something that your brain doesn't want. And so how do we do that? And our journey has been one of, let's create the awareness first, and then after the awareness, we kind of come in with tools. Now that I know where I want to change, show me how to do it, and then please keep me accountable, because my brain would just want to go back to the old neural pathway, the old way of thinking, and that's why we so easily give up on our New Year's resolutions, because we actually don't really want to change.
Yeah. So what I actually hear you say is coaching and mentoring combine those three. So they are the intervention tools that can really bring real change.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
it's very unlikely that working by yourself, you're going to get to the place that you want to be, or you're going to become that person you want to be without specifically the accountability, but maybe the awareness and the tools that come along with a mentor or
Yeah,
a coach
I
that's going
think
to
so.
do.
I think there's such an amount of awesome info out there today. I mean, I'm just thinking about the self-help books and the videos and all sorts of stuff. So I think you can probably go on a nice journey. But first of all, you would really need someone or something to help you develop that sense of awareness. And then you would need well, you can probably Google all the tools that's out there. But then the big question is, you're not going to keep yourself accountable in the process. So someone needs to keep you accountable. And I think that's where a coach or a mentor really steps in and really fills that gap.
Cool. I've already got a question for later. I'll come back to it, but thanks, Johnny. Keep sending questions as well, people. So, with this idea of change in mind, so what I wanted to just make a comment on as well is that it seems, I think, that coaching and mentoring kind of put different focus on each of those three aspects as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, a mentor and the accountability is super high. A coach accountability it's there, but it's more up to the coachee to kind of make sure that they are sticking to the process, because the coach is just being paid for the sessions. So whether you've done your homework or not, it's not up to the coach to kind of
Yeah.
drive the things
Yeah,
the same way.
absolutely. I think, and if we just go back to the origin, even there are two different drivers sitting in seats if you're looking at coaching and mentoring. And normally, a typical coaching practice where you are a coach, so now you're coaching someone else, is you need to get some income, right? And so often, what happens in a coaching setup is I connect with you, we decide on 6 or 8 sessions together, and now there's some payment involved, and most likely there's some sort of a contract involved. And the coach will often talk about a coachable person. So if the person's not coachable, they would maybe say, maybe not now. So and so everything is set up by the coach, but then the coachee needs to drive. The coachee needs to do the homework. The coachee needs to make the payments. And the coachee, hey, I've worked with coaches that if you don't cancel within 24 hours, you still be in charge, you know. So there's a lot of drive from the coachee side. And it makes sense, by the way, because remember, the person that wants to be transported from point A to point B is the coachee. On the mentoring side, it changes completely. The mentee doesn't even necessarily remember Odysseus' son. He was just told, hey, here's a guy that's going to take care of you, you know. And so it's not so much on the mentoring side, the mentee that's going to drive the process. It's going to be the mentor that say, I am going to be a carer, a guardian, an advisor, and a friend to you. And so a big drive in mentoring will come from the mentor side, not from the mentee side.
Yeah.
It's all the mentor that's driving the process.
Cool. And then, yeah, just thinking about tools is maybe much more bigger focus in coaching, and maybe not quite as big in the same way in mentoring, because it's more just about experience and sharing of wisdom, maybe in practical experience, as opposed to, there's times when a mentor can be a coach as well. Do you think?
Oh, absolutely. You know, I think we reflected so much on, and I think we're still going to get in more detail as we go on. But you know what? I think when let's say the South African rugby team, Rassie Erasmus, you know, when he starts his journey with the Springboks, he starts it as a coach. So it is going to be like, I'm going to help you work out a game plan. I'm going to observe you. So sports often helps us to really understand coaching. If I'm a sprinter, a 100-meter sprinter, and I need a coach, I don't ask for a mentor. So I ask, hey, can I get a coach, please? And then what the coach will do is the coach will observe me, will observe my approach to running, will observe my style, and then the coach will give me pointers as to, hey, maybe you shouldn't run in baggies. Let's put you in some decent running clothes and see if that's going to make a difference. And so the coach will work with me with the end goal of getting better. But as the relationship continues, now normal coaching is more on the short-term side, but as the relationship continues, And Rashi Erasmus comes into the box squat and he's going to teach them, a few tips and tricks and tools, and he's going to show them, how the back line should do whatever, and he's going to observe it, and but he signed a 4-year contract. So in 4 years later, he's going to have a very good relationship with his team, and that relationship will play out differently from just on the field Thursday practice. There will be much more happening, and that most likely will take on more of a mentoring relationship. So yes, coaching can kind of lead towards mentoring if we put a long duration on it, and vice versa. I guess a mentor can step in, and I can start mentoring you, and I get to know you, and there's a big relationship. And because I, according to the definition, have more experience than you, you say, hey, I really struggle with my budgeting. I can like, oh, let me coach you how to do budgeting. Show me your budget and let me do some coaching. So there's definitely similarities in how they can kind of, I want to say, develop or touch on each other in the process.
Cool. Awesome. That was kind of a tangent we went on, but I'm glad we went there.
Okay.
I think it brought more detail out. So coming back to where we wanted to go, the next thing I want to ask you is about, well, actually, I'm going to ask it to the group first, and then I'm going to come back to you as well. So I want to start thinking about how using coaching and mentoring to improve yourself as a personal development. I want to grow in an area where I'm looking to find a coach or a mentor. What is the, I would say, first of all, let's just talk about outcomes. What kind of outcomes would do each of these bring? We've talked about change in general, but maybe there's a lot of other stuff that we haven't talked about as well. So what I wanted to do was open it to the group, because I know you guys are all sitting with experience of being coached or being mentored or being a mentor or a coach to someone. So I want to throw it out to you. What outcomes have you experienced of going through coaching or mentoring? What would be really cool is if you could just write coaching and then your outcome, or mentoring and then your outcome. Then maybe we can get kind of two groups of outcomes just to see, are they similar? Are they different? Yeah. So
can I also put it in the chat box, or
yeah.
You're getting me to think as well, like
yes.
Yeah.
So use the chat box, and the question is just about what is the outcomes of going through coaching and mentoring?
I think while people are typing, I'm just thinking, I've had a mentor, Reverend Paul Palmer, and we were such an odd mentor-mentee match, because he is this old retired reverend from, I think, an Anglican church or priest, and here I am, Afrikaanse boer Kobus, Johannes Jacobus Oosthuizen, and so we were a weird match. But there was definitely something in our relationships that the outcomes, there wasn't a specific outcome. It was this thing of, we are journeying together and we are learning together, and it was never worth, it sounds weird now, but there wasn't a specific goal. It was kind of, when we met together, my heart was like, what can I learn today? What can I do? And so he gave me a book to read, and then we reflected on the book a bit. And, we did also, sometimes we just had lunch together, and we did all sorts of stuff together. But it was often a sense of just, I'm just hanging with, and there's no specific outcome in mind. And I'm just learning from this guy with a lot of experience. Yeah. So I guess,
and at the end of the day, what outcome did you experience?
Maybe it sounds a little bit arrogant, but I felt that I've developed immaturity. So that is what the feeling is, that I've learned so much about how this guy was thinking, that that it helped me to think more maturely about stuff. I also had a coaching experience where I was the coachee, and that was very specific. It was, where do you want to go with your business? What do we need to put in place? how do you think about this? How do you think about that? And that was also very helpful for that very specific thing, but that was very goal focused. And it was very much 90 minutes is what we've got. Go, 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 go. So both very valuable, but for personally, completely different experiences.
Yeah, I love this. What things that are coming through is coaching outcomes are very tangible. You can measure them easily.
Yeah.
Mentoring is more about lifestyle. It's harder to measure.
Yeah.
Coaching is about performance. Mentoring is about meaningfulness. That's a nice one. Coaching is more about practical stuff like finances or advertising or networking. Mentoring is about deeper habits, meditation, outlook, confidence. Someone who knows Paul says he's Methodist, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Brilliant Methodist guy.
Outcome was knowledge and expertise shared in a professional and objective way. Oh, so coaching could be potentially then what I hear is more objective, and mentoring maybe more subjective experience transfer. Coaching, I just self-discovered my solutions and leads to change through ownership. Mentoring, I'm more inspired by the other person.
That's nice.
And their values, and it leads to change through inspiration.
Yeah.
I like that also. Definitely.
Yeah, I like that.
A cool way of summarizing. Okay, so more than outcomes, what kind of things should you think about if you're considering engaging in coaching and mentoring for personal development?
Okay, so this is the thing. If you are thinking, all right, so you are thinking about your own development, then it speaks a lot about a coaching kind of mindset, because it's I want to get on the bus and I want to go there, and so who's going to take me there? So I think as soon as you start thinking about your own development and you're very aware of where I want to develop, then I would definitely say, hey, coaching is probably the way to go, where you can sit with a person and you can say, this is the need. I know that you are a coach in this area, and can you please observe how I do this, and then put me on the bus and take me to where I want to go. So that is definitely, when you talk about personal development needs, that's it. However, this is something else I just want to throw out there, and that is that, you know what, if it's more about and I love the kind of feedback that we just got. If it's more about, man, I want to develop, and I've got all these different areas in my life, and I'm not, I just want to grow as a person, and it's not necessarily about this area or this area of my life, then I often would just say, man, find a good mentor and oh man, please, my dear coach friends, don't be angry with me in saying this, okay? But I often think of do you know who Bruce Fordyce is?
No.
Okay. Oh goodness, really? So Bruce Fordyce is this guy that ran marathons like crazy, okay. And in South Africa he was always first in the Comrades in the oceans and stuff. So that's Bruce Fordyce.
I'm not a runner.
Okay, so to me, if I want to, if running is my life, I really want to, I really enjoy running, then the difference for me between coaching and mentoring would be, if I'm on coaching, I might go to the gym, get a personal trainer. I need to pay that guy for 10 sessions. And then I go like, okay, cool. He really helped me to fine tune my running skills. Mentoring would be to go and ask Bruce Fordyce if you can hang out with him a little bit. Hey, can I come and jog with you a little bit and get to know you and become friends with the Bruce Fordyce that you didn't even know, but with Bruce Fordyce, and then hanging, and now I observe a bigger spectrum, because I can see how this guy handles his family with all his training, and how does he do all that training and still be a family man, and I observe how he eats and how he drinks, and how it's not just so focused. There's a much wider spectrum. And so I think a big question, if you want to go on a journey, and you need to ask yourself, is this do I need a coach or do I need a mentor, is really, what do you want? Do you want to hone in on developing something, or are you in a space where you do want to just grow multiple facets of area of your life? And I think that's the big thing. Budget is also a big thing, I guess. So once again, coaching is a profession that people do. So you need to pay a coach. You don't pay a mentor. Mentoring is when people say that they've got mentoring programs and people pay for it, I'm like, oh goodness, no, that's not the right thing. So you need to consider your budget. You need to consider time span as well. Like, do you want to go on a journey, and see where it kind of ends, or do you want to get something sorted? If you want to get something on it and get it sorted and get it developed, then most likely go for the coaching side. If it's about, hey, I want to just go on this journey and grow and learn as I go, that's probably mentoring.
Cool.
What would you add?
No, I like what you said, but I've got thoughts in my mind in terms of if I was a manager who's trying to invest in one of my team members that I really feel needs some kind of help with changing in some way, and it could be either of the two, it could be coaching or mentoring, kind of trying to think of it from that point of view. If I'm in a business and I'm trying to develop a person in that business, what are my considerations when it comes to coaching or mentoring? And which one should I choose?
I think this is why this conversation is actually so valuable, because I've spent quite a bit of time with especially the finance, CAs kind of area where people, what do you call it, accountants. And in most accountant companies in South Africa, there should be a mentoring program. So that's kind of part of because they get a lot of interns and they should all get mentors. And then I would sit with the company and I would say, or with the manager or something, I would say, hey, by the way, your mentoring program, tell me about it. And they say, oh, they've got all these mentors and all these accountants and the interns. And then I say, okay, so tell me, what is the outcomes that you want for your interns? And they would say, we want to send into the world these mature people that can problem solve, that has grown in themselves, and they are just, they are just the pinnacle of being people with integrity and maturity and all sorts of things. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, that sounds like mentoring. So thumbs up for the fact that you are having a mentoring program. That's great mentoring outcomes. And then I would ask them, so how do you do your mentoring? And this is where it comes kind of fuzzy, because they say, no. If an accountant gets stuck, for example, on a little, I don't know anything about accounting, on debits and credits, then the mentor will help him to resolve the debit and credit issue. That's coaching. That's not mentoring. And then I ask them, so how is sorting out the debit credit issue resulting in a mature person with integrity? And then they look at you funny and they go like, I don't know. And so as a manager that wants to develop someone, or someone in human resources that wants to develop someone, the big question should be, what is the outcomes? If it is that this person has a serious issue with time management or focusing, or there's a serious issue and we really need to get it resolved because this project is standing still, getting a coach so that we can resolve that issue. If it is, we really want to grow people, we want to retain them, we want to see that it kind of becomes part of the culture, where we just really want to take expertise and pass it on to people with lesser expertise. Mentoring will definitely be the approach.
Cool. Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah. And I
okay,
think
cool.
The difference obviously would be that obviously coaches come in externally, so you would be looking to, whereas a mentor is someone that you could identify within your company to maybe come alongside. I mean, just like they said, the more experienced people come alongside the interns or things like that. So that's just a comparison in a business sense.
And I think that's a very important comparison, because once again, we are so used to use coaching and mentoring in the same sentence, but your mentor will always be internal. Going back to Odysseus, King Odysseus, mentor was one of his advisors. He understood the kingdom, he understood what needs to happen, he understood the ways of them, and he said, now that you understand our culture, I want you to mentor someone. The coach is a person that comes with experience and systems and processes and knowledge from the outside in, and say, hey, let me show you how to do this differently, which is often super cool because you can be so stuck in your bubble that you can't see anything else. And it often needs a person that's completely outside of your bubble to come and show you. Mentoring will always be inside of that bubble. It is someone that, man, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, let me pass on my t-shirt for you. I understand how our process works.
Yeah, more about helping that person to get even the internal
Yeah,
processes even,
absolutely.
side of things. I think a big thing also, I think we need to just make something clear here when it comes to mentoring is a big no-no, apart from having the mentee pay the mentor for services. That just
Yeah,
doesn't work in mentoring relationships. It's the fastest way for it to break down, because it no longer is their relationship
yeah,
involved. It all becomes condition dependent as to whether you keep paying me or not. So because mentoring is about the relationship, no payment is involved between mentee and mentor.
yeah,
Second thing is also that it makes, what else can make it really tricky for mentoring is if you are the manager that has some kind of responsibility for the person underneath you for their performance, because that kind of makes you fall into two roles in a sense. You have to be that person that holds them accountable and maybe at the end of the day has to fire the person or ask them to leave, but yet on the other side you want to be the cheerleader, mentor. Doesn't matter, failure is good, what can we learn from this? And
yeah,
it's a very hard position to put yourself in.
yeah,
So that's just something also to be aware of if you're hiring a mentor, if you're training mentors within your business to develop people. Don't make it hard for them by making them the direct manager of that
yeah,
person. Rather try and find
absolutely.
someone who's not connected to be the
Yeah.
mentor, and invest in that person. And that also is in the definition, actually.
Yeah, I just wanted to
Yeah.
say, when I look at the definition, it spoke about unrelated. And so obviously you don't want your father to be your mentor because he's your father, you know, and you also don't want your uncle to be your mentor, because what if you tell your uncle what an idiot dad you have, and that idiot dad, that's his brother. So, you know, this can become messy if there's some sort of relationship already established. But you're absolutely right that in a company, the more we can kind of pull things apart, where it's not my line manager, it's not the person sitting above me, it's not the person that needs to get me to perform, that's also my mentor. I need to be able in a company to go to my mentor and say, oh, I hate my boss. You know, what do I need to do? And so, yeah, I think because it's inside of that bubble, because it's internal mentoring, it becomes tricky, you know, because there's a lot of relationships and stuff. And if we can slightly pull them apart, then that will be great. But Tammy, you've got like a load of cool slides and stuff. Can I put that up? Will you talk us through
let's
that?
see if I can quickly get through this, because I also want to leave time. There's been some awesome questions coming through.
Okay,
so
cool. So
I also want to address some of those.
You just say next and I'll push
Okay.
the button.
Very short, very quick, if you need to watch the video to catch up on this. But I just wanted to talk about why would you bring mentoring and coaching into your business? And now we're talking not just for an individual, now we're talking about as a company-wide intervention, as something that you want to invest in for your company. Like, for example, you've got interns that you want to deal with. So for all this group of interns, I want to develop these people, or for all the new hires that I'm bringing into the company. So big thing, let's set the stage for it. There's been research by the Manpower Group. They've done surveys into looking at talent shortage across the world for many years. And this is the global average. So that statistic for 2019 is the latest result, that 63% of companies around the world are struggling to fill positions within their company with the right talent for their position. If we go to the next slide, you'll see South Africa. We are averaging for the last few years around about 31 to 34%.
So can I just understand this correctly? So what you're saying is that there's a 34% gap in finding the right person.
34% of employers are having difficulty filling the jobs that they can't find the people to do the work that they need done.
Okay, cool.
That's how I understand it. Then we've also got this other, Kelly Recruitment did a white paper about job hopping. So this is also a thing that I think is becoming more and more relevant in the workplace today. Is they found that in South Africa, 47% of South African employees have been in their current position for less than a year. So that's almost half of your people have only been around for less than a year. And even more, 36% identified that the longest time they spent within a company is 1 to 2 years.
Oh, wow.
So we were looking at a workforce that is very likely to move to around. And then if you look at, this is older research, but 2016, the Society for Human Resource Management, they did awesome big study around the world about the cost of replacing an employee. So every time someone leaves, how much does it cost? And this is mostly hard costs. So this is about recruitment costs. It's about training a new person, having to pay the old person and then the new person's salary and all the rest of it. Costs between 90 to 200% of their annual salary.
I've actually saw research on this where it says that obviously the lack of a better word, more educated, but that's not the word I'm looking for.
Highly skilled.
The highly skilled, the more skilled the person is, that can go up to 400%.
Wow.
To replace
I've seen
that person.
200% for
wow.
highly skilled employees. And so basically the idea is you don't want to have this retention issue.
Yeah.
You don't want a high turnover. And so when we looked at more stuff, this is pay scales research. They did a survey into, they did two parts, what makes you satisfied at work, but also what would cause you to have an intent to leave your employer? Why would you want to leave? And the three biggest factors, they looked at all of those factors on the left-hand side. Three biggest is the company outlook, like what does the future of this company look like? Second thing is how appreciated I feel within the company. And the third thing, surprisingly, was development. So how much can I grow within this company? Or how much does the company care about me growing?
Oh, just by the way, sorry, I know you rush, but that pay versus market at the bottom, I love that because there's so much research out there that people don't leave companies because they are concerned about their salaries.
Yeah, it's actually interesting. Yeah. If you read this whole thing, is go to pay scale and you'll find the research that it's not so much about what they paid, it's about how the pay process is handled causes more of an issue than the actual amount of.
Okay, it's fascinating because once again, often what I found when I speak to CEOs and owners of businesses is they think that, to retain people, let's just pay them more. And it's not, it's been proven over and over that money is not the issue.
No. But if you look at those three things, that's immediately where I started getting excited because mentoring and coaching, the company outlook, for me, mentoring is the big answer here because mentors that you choose within your company are the people that have this positivity, this hope, this belief in the work that you're doing in your company. They've been around for a long time. You find those people, they become your champions or your mentors. And then you bring them alongside the people that are new and that they can buy into the same philosophy, the same culture. They feel appreciated, and obviously there's a focus on growing and developing people. So just a few more interesting graphs. This one is about your percentage, the chance of you leaving. If you look at the line, is kind of your average chance of leaving the company. But then if you look at the red line, it changes according to your relationship with the manager. So if you've got a lower relationship with the manager, you've got a much higher chance of leaving. If you've got a good relationship with your manager, you're more likely to stay around. I think we all understand that and can probably relate to that. This one is about your education level, and so if you look at the line as the average percentage of people who intend to leave, and then you look at the different education levels, you'll see that there is a real spike around the people that are probably the talent that you're wanting to keep around the longest. So that's what's interesting about this one for me. And if you...
So sorry, just almost a percentage change in intent to leave. So the spike is, those people
are more likely to leave. If they're above the line, they're more likely to leave your business. If they're below, they're more likely to stay. And then the last one, and this one is also for me, I mean, this one you can understand as well, is the younger the people are, the more likely they are to want to move. And the older that you get, the more intent they have to stay. So once again, using this graph and bringing this idea of mentoring in, where you can connect these people who are committed and stable within your company to come alongside and invest in those people who are new and bring them on board, and kind of promote the culture that you're wanting to bring about is awesome. So this is...
Yeah, I love this because this is the group, if you go to, and look at the definition, they will fit the profile for mentor that you look in your company. They most likely will, and they will just be able to take in any new talent coming in, and kind of mentor them into the company culture and the process of the one. I love this.
So if you go to the next slide, I'm just bringing a summary of all of these things as well. So what are the benefits of bringing mentoring into your organization? Obviously, you're going to encourage retention. As soon as I've got someone who cares more about me, it's like having that relationship to a manager. It's not necessarily my manager, but there's someone out there that kind of, I don't want to necessarily just give up on that connection.
And can I maybe just add, once again, just speaking a lot with the human resources and HR, often the company just wants HR to do this. Like, you need to sort this out. And that's not very realistic. How can one person look after and make people, if I go back to the other slide, feel appreciated and developed? I mean, that's an impossible task for HR. But if you can kind of create a culture where people say, hey, we've got these mentor champions in the company, then they could play that role as a support to HR.
Absolutely. As soon as you're encouraging retention, you're definitely reducing the costs of the turnover. So that's easy. Obviously, productivity increases as soon as you start working and growing and your people with learning and development. You're breaking down silo mentality. This is huge because, like we said, mentors cannot be directly in your line of reporting, I guess, or accountability. Mentors should ideally sit more spread out. So you probably got people from different departments investing in other people. And immediately you're now creating communication and connections all around your company. So huge benefit of mentoring. Then obviously we talked about the knowledge transfer and how it happens in coaching and mentoring. I think what you'll find in bringing in mentoring or coaching into your business compared to just sending people on training courses is it's not just about theory. It's about mastering those skills and, you know, actually putting the skills into practice to result in better performance. So that's really important. Maximizing your talent internally. So once again, this is just the benefit of mentoring, that you don't necessarily always need to go outside and find coaches. What about all the wealth of talent that is already sitting in your organization? If you could just get that and empower those people to have the ability to come alongside someone and mentor them, because sometimes you sit with those experts out there, but they're not people, you know, they just don't have the people skills to be able to share that information. But what if you could invest in them to have those skills and abilities to create those relationships for mentoring around your company?
What I hear you say is that some engineers, and I'm really trying to understand this, sorry, not engineers, I've seen Johan Gerber, engineers are good, by the way. Some people, they might be in a profession where they actually, and I make a joke about engineering, but I've heard an engineer once told me, I went into engineering because I want to sit and work on my little project. I don't want to spend time with people. Now they promoted me in being a manager. Now I spend all my time with people, and I got into this job because I wanted to be on my own. And what I hear you say is you can have CEOs and all sorts of people that are maybe experts, but they're not very good with people. They don't have people skills maybe, and so they sit with a wealth of information, but they don't necessarily know how to kind of transfer it. Something like that. Thanks, Johan. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what you're saying?
Can you just check the managed participants? I see we're coming out to our time, so I'm just worried it's going to cut us off. I hope not. We're willing to go on a little bit longer so I can do some questions.
It won't cut us off.
Okay. So on that point, I just wanted to say that something else to be aware of when it comes to identifying mentors, and it's not quite the same issue when it comes to coaching, is that you can't tell someone to be a mentor. Just the same way that you don't get a mentee to pay a mentor, the mentor has to be doing it out of their choice. It has to be a voluntary thing. So once again, don't take this thing and say, okay, now I'm just going to make everyone in my company mentors. And it's fine. I know you're not good with people, but I'll put you on training, and there you go. Now you'll be good with people. That will also once again set the mentoring up for failure, because if the person doesn't really want to do it, then they're the person that's driving the mentoring, and then it's just going to fall apart. So keep in mind that a mentoring program in your company should start with we are promoting this, we want to start this, but who wants to be involved? And encourage people to sign up. Absolutely. Tell them they can be great mentors and you can see them as great mentors, but don't force them. Don't tell them
because they would need to drive it. So they need to actually create a passion for it.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing, or two last things, I think. Obviously, when it comes to BEE and just supporting diversity in the workplace, mentoring can be really beneficial in
Mm.
terms of, there's just culture things that don't get dealt with when it comes to coaching necessarily, unless you're specifically doing a cross-culturing coaching course, I guess. But a mentoring, the personal aspect of mentoring really helps to deal with any cultural issues, and it can definitely help to transfer the wisdom that you might need if you're having to hire people in your business for reasons that maybe are not sitting with the amount of knowledge or wisdom or experience that they need to have for their position.
Yeah.
Bring someone alongside them as a mentor and grow them into that position. Mentoring can be useful for that. And then lastly, I think it's just about it generally. This is what's most exciting for me as well. I think that once again, we're moving from a time and a place where mentoring and coaching is there for performance. I just need you to become more productive, higher performance, or whatever. And we're moving towards a time where work needs to become more than just about ticking boxes. It needs to be more about what is it bringing me, or how am I growing, how am I becoming better, how am I having more meaning or purpose, I guess, in my work as well. And I think that that's where mentoring and coaching is also moving towards. It's helping us to move towards that. And so also, if you want to become an employer that is seen as someone that invests and grows their people, that we care about the path that you're on and not just the path that we're on, and you're not just a cog in a machine for us, you're a person that we really want to grow, because both of us benefit out of that relationship. If you're growing, we get more of what we want as well. So very excited about that. And then the last point, I think, just about the fact that mentoring can also be used as a way of spreading whatever message you want to throughout your business. If you're wanting to get people excited about your vision, if you want to talk about your values and how these are lived out, or if you just want to start focusing on your culture. In our last webinar, definitely, if you haven't seen it, go and catch it. It's all about how to invest in company culture, and there's a little bit of an element where you can see where the mentoring and coaching plays into that. And
well,
so
the mentoring, when we spoke about the role modeling,
yeah, the
side,
role
is that
modeling
what you're
part of it.
referring to?
Yeah. Choose those champions that are going to do the work for you. Don't leave it just up to one person in HR. Invest in, these people that are going to really believe in your company and want to take it forward and want to spread the positivity around about things. They can be your star mentors. So last point I just want to make, this has been very focused on mentoring. I believe that there's kind of it was difficult to find stuff when it comes to coaching in the business, and I believe probably because coaching is more suited to working with individuals. Everyone's got different strengths or challenges. You're not going to necessarily bring a company-wide coaching thing in unless maybe you've got a new software or you've got a new process that you want to roll out company wide, but most likely you're going to send groups of small individuals off to coaches.
Yeah, I mean, my experience being with some companies that we've been involved with is that on the directors level, that every person got their own coach.
Yeah.
And so it is very much in my role, in what I need to do. Can you coach me? Can you observe and see how I can change something so that I can run faster? So definitely I've seen that executive teams, often everybody's got their own coach. Very useful, very helpful. But then once again, in a company culture shift, because you need to understand that when I've paid my last session, I've done 10 sessions and now it's done, then the big question is, what is driving that change? What's going to keep people sticking to it when our brains want to take us back? And that's often where mentoring becomes so vital, because your mentor sits in the company and they're going to say, hey, we decided we're going to do this, and I'm going to role model how we do this, and I'm going to go on this journey with you to make sure that this becomes part of how we do things around here. And I think that is vital, or a vital place where mentoring kicks in to make sure that things continue to happen over time.
Yeah, so sorry, that was, we have gone over time. I think there's even like a whole lot more that I feel I could share on the topic. So I would love to keep on going. But what I'll do is I'll just bring two questions I think that popped up that I think would be cool to talk about. This is one that says, could you say that coaching is more about what you do and mentoring is about who you are?
So my quick response is, once again, when we look at the definition of mentoring and coaching, the mentoring part, the coaching spoke about definite goals that you want to achieve. And so definitely there's an aspect of what I want to do. So that's what I want to do, and that's where I want to go. Where the mentoring spoke about competence and character. So it seems like on the mentoring side, there is a sense of I want to grow you in your competency, but definite focus on who you want to become, who the character part. If we just look at the two definitions, I think that's a cool way to experience it. So yeah,
Cool.
I like that.
Then this is a tricky one. This
I'm
one
not
comes
gonna
from
answer.
Noah. Accountability is often used as a synonym for control.
Mm.
In your experience in Work at Life Exchange, how do you implement accountability that is healthy and empowering, not controlling or power heavy?
Yeah, so we just control straightforward. Noah, you know what? You actually need to read it again. But if I summarize that,
Yes.
is how do we keep people accountable without using this powerful position to keep a person accountable?
Yeah, I guess controlling the process.
Yeah, that
maybe.
you're kind of coming out of a position of power. You know?
Okay, yes, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I guess both in coaching and mentoring, even though the angles will be completely different, the big thing for us is from a mentoring point of view is to help a person discover what's in it for them. So when I am with the mentee and they're on this tangent of something that needs to change, there's definitely an aspect of really helping the person to say, hey, this is why you want to do this. This is why, and kind of dig into a deeper motivation for that person, so that we just always go back to his own motivation for why they want to do that. So now the accountability, I'm just reminding him of this deep reason as to this is why I want to go on this path of change in my life. And that's what we have been trying to do. And then the other thing, I believe in mentoring, which is very nice in a sense. And I think Cornell, Johnny, or someone said in the beginning, that there's more pressure on a coach, and I really believe that there's more pressure on the coach because I've got 6 sessions with you, I've got 12 sessions with you, and you are paying me, so I need to deliver. So there's a lot more pressure there. On mentoring, there's less pressure. So from a mentoring point of view, it's often, I'm just thinking of young people that we've been mentoring, and we want a job. We say, come to the office and we'll work on a CV. Now they don't pitch up. Now we leave it. Now a month later, they're like, hey, but I really want the job. Yeah, you must come to the office, and then you must, we are here. We want to help you. Come to our office. We'll help you with the CV. We'll put a plan on the table. So in mentoring, it's so easy to continually giving it back to the person. And as they kind of, okay, I really need to step up to the plate, it helps them to step up to the plate. The problem mentor, and we do have problem mentors, I mean, I tend to be a problem mentor, is to often when there's a need for the mentee to step in because I've got the experience, I know how to solve this, and then I just jump in and solve it for the person. And then you kind of take that role of the authority that will just tell you how it needs to be done and what you need to do, etc. But I think what makes mentoring slightly easier, less pressured than coaching, is to step back and say, hey, we're on this journey, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you don't pay me anyway. So I'm just going to journey with you, and I'm going to make sure the whole time that you are the person that's going to drive your own process of change. And I'll just keep you accountable. And if you don't pitch up for our meeting this next week, and if you don't pitch up, then I will revisit why you wanted to go through this change anyway, and we will try to get to the core to get yourself motivated to run with the process again. Do you think that makes sense?
It does, but I have a completely different experience than what you just said. So I just wanted to share from my side of points of things. So I've been a coach, I've done strengths coaching with people, and I've also been a mentor through the Life Exchange MPC process. And I find that coaching has less pressure in terms of if the person didn't pitch, if they didn't do their homework, it's not on me. It's up to them. They're the one who wanted this. They are the person who's kind of the drive. So almost that accountability is less important for me as a coach, because at the end of the day, I can just send a report in, I guess, and say, if I had to report to anyone in a business setting or something and say, well, they didn't pitch, I tried my best, but they didn't do anything, and then it's your problem. Sort it out, I guess. That's cool. You could go towards that level.
Okay, but then but connect that to the question.
Yeah. So now, when it comes to mentoring, I find that the accountability, how it doesn't become, I think, it's an interesting question, because in one sense, I had to go on this journey with my mentees with a lot of disappointments. They told me, this is the plan, don't stick to the plan. This is the plan, don't stick to the plan. So it's a very common thing, I think, in both mentoring and coaching. You know, the plan is there and it's a very easy plan, but it's just not being stuck to. And I had to go on this journey about myself and how many plans I make for myself in terms of New Year's resolutions, getting fitter, losing weight, all of the rest. I start these new things, and then 3 weeks down the line, it's just nowhere again. And I had to come to this space of, how would I like to be dealt with when it comes to accountability to sticking with my own plans? And then I went on a journey with that with my mentees, and I've actually found it even harder as a mentor, because I'm the one driving it, that
True.
my holding them accountable to things actually started pushing them away from me. And I had to almost learn how to balance that accountability between, you know what, this is your plan, and I'm holding you accountable. So where is the thing that you said you're going to have it done? And why haven't you done it, and things like that. But then I also had to learn how to deal with failure. I needed to be able to talk to them about, okay, so tell me why, and why is it so hard? And I had to even share vulnerably about where I'm struggling, where I've struggled with plans before, and how I've, had to be able to solve that or come around with that. And so there's almost a bigger focus on accountability with mentoring for me, because you're the one driving it. You have to keep meeting with that person. And the big thing is, I think, coming back to the question, I hope I'm making sense. The big thing coming back to the question is, whose agenda is it? Because I'm only holding the person accountable to their goals. So whatever the mentee tells me, this is what they're going to do next, or this is their next plan or step of the plan, I just hold them accountable to that. I can probably think of a million other ways of solving this problem, but I'm not doing that. As a mentor, I'm just holding them accountable to what they told me they want to do. So I think that is where you get away from control, because I'm not controlling, I'm not putting the agenda on the table. The mentee is putting the agenda on the table. And I think, once again, in coaching, it's important to keep that balance as well. The coachee is the one driving it. So they do have an agenda to bring to the table. And as a coach, I think the struggle is not to take too far. You're coming with your own models, your own skills and things like that, and not necessarily to distract from the agenda of the coachee as well. Because the thing that's going to help the coachee most in that moment is to get where they want to go. So try not to take them to a place where you think they should be, but also use your model and all your information, everything that you know, to get them to where they want to be. I think that's how you get away from control.
Yeah.
And just
cool.
Accountability.
Thank you.
Cool.
We'll send that out as a whole separate recording.
Okay, well, that's all we have time for today. So thanks, guys, for hanging in there. Next webinar, just to let you know, if you're still interested in following us, or if you know of anyone who might want to check in, we will be doing another one Thursday, 7th of May, 2 p.m. on Zoom again. We like this time slot. The topic will be about the case for strengths-based development. So very excited about that.
Yeah, and then all I want to say is, you know what, if you want to connect more with us, we love talking about mentoring. We love talking about how your mind works and how to get the best out of people and how to play them at their strengths, or even look at your company design. Just let's continue the conversation. I mean, there's so many more awesome questions that I think we can have a look at. So just email us. And go to our website and let's continue the conversation, even if it's just a random WhatsApp. Just tell me, what do you guys think about this? That's my number at the bottom. And once again, I want to say that this session was not about mentoring or coaching. Both are valuable, both just a slightly different angle, different approach as to what you want to achieve. And I hope that this gave you some idea as to how you can take this back to your personal life, but also to the workplace, and say, what do we need right now? Do we need a coach to come in and help us with this? Or is a bigger mentoring plan the way that we want to go? And with that, I'm done. Thank you for your time. Tammy, happy?
Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks.
And we'll see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Bye.